Print, email, Facebook, Twitter. More jurors from gruesome trials welcome report recommending counseling when details of horrific crimes are made public. Our sympathies don't automatically extend to the jurors, but trial by jury can take a terrible psychological toll on the people required to sit through day after day of sometimes gruesome evidence. On Wednesday morning, Australian time, the Justice Committee of Canada's House of Commons recommended that all Canadian provinces offer psychological support to jurors. In most Australian jurisdictions, jurors have access to counselling services after their trial, but we never hear about their experiences. The Canadian inquiry has shone a fascinating light on the experiences of jurors who haven't had access to counselling. At present in Canada, some provinces offer counselling as a right, while others offer no counselling, or only offer it when a judge feels there is a need. But that looks set to change. It's disturbing. Tina Dienzer was one of 37 witnesses to appear before the Canadian Parliament's Justice Committee, where she reflected on her time as a juror in the 1995 first-degree murder trial of Paul Bernardo. Dienzer and her fellow jurors were forced to closely scrutinize video evidence, filmed by Bernardo, of him assaulting and raping young women. That was the problem, over, and over, and over, and over again, because there wasn't just one video, she said. Ms. Dienzer said the video evidence had a profound and lasting effect on her when the trial concluded. When I went home, the videos would replay in my head and I couldn't get rid of them, she said. I was just in a fog. I would go home and my husband would just put me on the sofa, cover me up with a blanket and make me a cup of tea. Ms. Dienzer said she benefited from psychological counseling offered by the judge, but until 2017, most jurors in Ontario, where the trial took place, were not offered counseling. Another former juror to provide evidence to the Canadian committee, Patrick Fleming, said he felt unable to share his experiences with his family. We can't share any of the information, so what ends up happening is when you come home from a day of gruesome pictures, photos and testimonies, you can't share that, he said. And it's disturbing. So you pull yourself away from the people you love and you end up really just isolating yourself. It has a huge impact on not just you as a juror, but the family and friends that love you and that you love. Mr. Fleming was a juror on a 2014 trial that lasted 10 months, where jurors heard a disturbing 911 call in which a wounded man realizes his wife has been shot dead. He said the strain of listening to this evidence and the rigors of this trial isolated him from his family. They lost me for 10 months and beyond, he said. I couldn't support them as I normally would. So the isolation and pulling away from your family, you're not there for them. Like Patrick Fleming, Toronto resident Mark Farrant did not have access to counseling after he sat on a gruesome 4-month murder trial. Diagnosed with PTSD, Mr. Farrant is suing authorities for $100,000 Canadian, the cost of past and future treatment costs. Juror support in Australia. Victoria is the only Australian state that provides details of how many people access counselling services. Victoria's juror support program has been running since 2004, providing 4-hour-long sessions with qualified psychologists by phone, in person or via Skype. Further sessions are available if deemed necessary. Victorian Juries Commissioner Paul Dorr was one of the witnesses to appear before the Canadian committee and gave details of the program. He said Victoria's service has been expanded in the last few years to make it far more robust. We have, now, got a juror support program that is equal to our employee assistance program, he said. Mr. Dorr said 17 jurors accessed the Victorian Juror Support Program in 2016, and just 8 in 2017. Of these 25 people, 8 of them were broadly diagnosed as suffering some sort of trauma, 13 had some personal stress, and 4 had anxiety. Those numbers are remarkably low, I think, given we had 6,500 people serve on a jury each year in Victoria. Most jurors have positive experience. Research. While stories about jurors suffering PTSD or other problems need to be considered seriously and addressed, research supports the view that they are, overwhelmingly, the minority of people who do jury service. University College London professor Cheryl Thomas, widely regarded as one of the world's leading jury researchers, says this is part of the bigger picture. Her research, involving thousands of jurors across England and Wales, found that 81% of those who served in jury trials said they would be happy to do so again. I think it's incredibly important not to overstate the extent to which jurors suffer from things like PTSD, or even the extent to which they say they found serving on a jury upsetting, she said. The reality is that the overwhelming majority of jurors in England and Wales, I have to say, come away saying they found the experience interesting, educational, informative. Having appeared before the inquiry, Mr. Fleming and Mr. Farrant have both said they are pleased with the Parliamentary Committee's recommendations. In Canada, jury welfare is a provincial responsibility, and Mr. Farrant's only concern is that Canada's provinces implement all the recommendations of the Federal Parliamentary Committee. Despite his traumatic experience with the murder trial in Ontario, Patrick Fleming still firmly believes trial by jury is the best system. But he wants to make sure that those jurors that do suffer from their service have proper support. All I'm asking for our government to do is stand behind us with this, he said. We're not trained to do this, and that's all we really want, is support and safety. Print, email, Facebook.